That's what happens. Think about 1.5 billion Chinese and 1.5 billion Indian. By the way, India passed China in population. 3 billion people, suddenly 30% GDP drop. What do you think is going to happen? Chaos. Those people have to, exactly, chaos, and chaos results in wars. So the pricing of defaultable bonds is different in nature than pricing of other bonds. Let me give you an example. Since I already have the thread open, let's look at the average yield of AAA rated corporate bonds. Option adjusted spread. This is a measure where basically how much on top of comparable treasury bonds you would have to pay. Let's look at 1 year. Currently, if you're a US corporate entity that was rated AAA, the best rating you can get, on average, you would have paid about 47 basis points above the corresponding treasury bonds. So if the 10-year treasury bonds are trading at 465, add 0.47 on that. If 2 years are trading at 5, add 0.47 on that. That's the best quality. Let's look at the lowest end of the investment grade. Anything rated BBB and above is called investment grade. That's important because mutual funds whose purpose is not to be in taking high interest rate risk cannot invest into anything that's not investment grade. So let's say you have a growth and income fund, right? Those guys cannot buy anything that's not investment grade. So if you're BBB, which is the lowest investment grade you can be, you would have to pay 1.5% above the treasuries. How about the lowest end of the so-called junk bonds? Single B. Four point above. Single B means, there's a much higher likelihood that you could be defaulting on your obligations. And market says, I want compensation for that. It's Treasury, which has virtually zero chance of default, you pay 4% above that. Or let's compare it to just AAA. The spread between single B and AAA is 419 minus 47. So that would be 360, 372, okay? So single B rated company would have to pay roughly 3.75% more than a AAA rated company. That's compensation for increased risk of default. And these things also vary over. Look at this. This is when the first lockdowns happened during COVID. Single B spread went up to 12%. That basically means don't even ask for borrowing the money. If you do, I'm going to make you pay a lot. Even AAA, or let's look at single A, which is a very good investment grade. When the COVID started, you would have to pay about 3% above the treasuries. And currently it's only 1%. But if you want to take that risk, why not? In fact, there is an ETF. Let me show it to you. Let's see. It's literally called JNK. This invests only into bonds of single B and double B companies. There is another one that's similar, HYG. And let's see. And since the last 1 year, they return about 9.37%. Okay. What is the SEC yield? These things should have an SEC yield. Oh, there you go. 8.30. That's kind of the expected cash flow yield every 30 days. But it's junk. Let's look at, there is a ETF for investment grade corporate bonds, LQD. It's short for liquid. Its SEC yield is what? 583. So junk bonds are making about 2.5 percentage points higher. That comes with increased risk of defaults, but it's not that high. What is the current default rate for double B bonds? For triple B, 148. For double B, it's 619 over the next 5 years. There is increased risk of default, but you get compensated for it with higher yield. All right, let's go back to our template. A lot of times, we're given the price, we need to figure out what the yield is, okay? For example, when we go to, actually, let's do it from here. I mean, they already calculate something for me, but let's look at it. What's the price? Current price, 93.6562. That's for $100 face value. So I have a $100 face value. Let's make it $10,000 again. All I have to do is multiply the price with 100, 93, 65, 62. This is going to be 10 years. What's the coupon rate on this? 3.875. If yield to maturity is 8, then that's the value. Okay. Now we want to figure out, given that's the price, what should be the yield to maturity? As you remember, I'm going to take us back to, first I'm going to figure out what's my unknown. My unknown is yield to maturity. Okay. Then I'm going to make this green light, solver mode. There you go. 468. Let me add more digits to these. It's similar to the number that I get here, 685. They probably are using different date conventions and stuff, so I'm not worried about that. Done. I mean, we also have a function in Excel called rate that actually makes that calculation. But I don't have to worry about it. That's the thing I don't know. I know the end result, so I enter the target value, I'm home. And we'll do certain problems this way anyway. My plan for today is, I'm going to give a break now, We'll get back here at 7:30, and we're gonna talk about the functionings of the bond market and certain features. I'm gonna do those problems in video during the rest of the week, and I'll post separate videos for each of those problems. That way we don't take class time. Normally I would have used the second half of last class, but you guys were already kind of beat. Since we had the fall break coming, I said, okay, let's do it that way. So let's give a break now. Let's come back here at, let's do it 7:35, all right? Then we'll talk about different kinds of bonds,